Hello, everybody. Welcome to That Hashtag Show. I'm Hunter, and we are here with Jordan Roberts, the director, producer, showrunner. What else doesn't he do on John Carpenter's Suburban Screams? And he directed the second episode of the show, A Killer Comes Home. I just rewatched it, Jordan, and this episode, there's a lot of frightening episodes in this series. The Bunny Man one in particular, that one stuck with me for a while. But this one feels the most real. Is that what drew you to it? It doesn't have any of the supernatural elements. There's no real mystery to it, but what drew you to this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. When we were researching and finding stories for the series and this came up, I had never heard of the serial killer Alan Legier before.
Hmm.
And when I heard the plot line, I'm like, wow, that's the plot line of Halloween, literally. He escapes
Exactly.
and so it was like, all right, so this is a story, I want to take on personally. John Carpenter uh, had his phone stalker story, so I went for it.
So you mentioned John Carpenter. He also directed an episode for this series, which is the first time in I think like 13 years or whatever he's been in the director's chair. His episode is also fantastic. Were you on set or were you I guess because he wasn't on set to direct it, he was doing it virtually, which is kind of cool. I've seen the behind the scenes photos of that. Were you on set at all to sort of experience that?
Absolutely. I was on set for all of the episodes,
Mm.
including John's. Yeah, it was a trip. I mean, we had the technology, and
Hmm.
then we tested it and worked with it, and then John did his thing. He worked with the actors for tons of prep time before that, and the technology worked. So I got to basically sit back and watch John, direct for the first time, as you said, in 12, 13 years. So yeah, it was a joy, man. It was super cool.
That is one of the coolest experiences I think I can imagine being on a set. So were you on board before John and Sandy King were on, or were you on board after them?
Well, they were, yeah. It was John and Tony DeSanto with Diga had the project, talked to me, and I'm like, yeah, of course, let's do it.
So what did you have your pick of episodes? I know I asked Sandy. John said that he wanted to do the phone stalker one. Did you have your pick of the episodes, and why would
I
you pick
did.
this one in particular?
I did. This one resonated with me. It's been, I've been working on kind of blending genres between documentary and more kind of scripted filmmaking.
Hmm.
And this gave me the opportunity, I think, to really do that just from an artistic kind of passion point of view. Plus, the story was so damn good. I also
Hmm.
wanted to be super, respectful to the victims. I didn't want to glamorize the killer per se, but I did want to create an experience for the audience as if they were being hunted, to feel those kind of primal emotions. So it gave me all of those opportunities. So I was like, yeah, I want to do this episode. The other directors, Jan Vodlowski and Michelle Latimer, absolutely wonderful, and did terrific jobs on their stories as well.
Yes, all of the stories here they're just so varied. That was what I was so surprised by this series because obviously it has John Carpenter's name. You're going to get people in the seats on
I hope so.
Peacock with that just by itself. But then when you get there and you're like, this series, it's not like Forensic Files or even it's a little bit Unsolved Mysteries kind of where it has the dramatizations and a little bit of the supernatural, a little bit of the real life stuff, but it's just so much different than Dateline or the average true crime show. And I just want to hear some of your thoughts on the other stories that are in the series. The Bunny Man, the first show about Kelly, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it was important that they are grounded in a sense of truth. There is some sort of corroboration or evidence. Ghost stories, are great to tell, and they're even scarier when there's this kind of kernel of truth to hold on to, I guess. Be it a real death or other people experiencing it besides the primary storyteller, and then true crime. I mean, this is all horrific stuff, and people experiencing trauma and fear and real primal emotions. So it's ripe for storytelling. So that's the lens that we, that I chose stories through out of hundreds and hundreds of stories. And Bunny Man is what of, I mean, it's like we had to do Bunny Man, right?
Yeah, just the imagery of the bunny man. Like I was looking at pictures doing the review, trying to find images to put in the article, and I saw the bunny man again, and I was like, oh my God, it's so terrifying in that like old Halloween costume decoration, like weird black and white, of image from like the 20s or whatever. Just the ears and everything about it is creepy. People watching, just make sure to do not skip that episode.
Yeah, don't skip Bunny Man. Bunny Man's a trip. Bunny Man, many people think of it as an urban legend,
Hmm.
but there's truth to the urban legend. It's
Yeah.
really unbelievable. So to look at it through that lens is like, holy shit, this is kind of scary because there was a Bunny Man.
Hmm.
So it's fascinating stuff and super like what a sandbox to play in.
Exactly. It's a very, just the way that the stories are told. It's like you said before, it doesn't glorify the villains or the hero or the killers or whoever else. It tells it like it's just somebody telling you a story in a small town. It's so fascinating in that way. And you mentioned the stories that you guys were going through, that you went through hundreds, I guess. And are there any stories that you guys want to get to for a second season, or that you particularly missed out on?
I mean, certainly. I mean, there's some on the back burner, and there's some that I'm excited about, and there's like more to be found, and there's lots to discard.
Hmm.
As I said, we're super super selective and finding what's going to resonate, what's going to be scary, what's going to be entertaining, and what's going to always blend where the truth enhances the horror.
Hmm. So just to get to some of the other stories here, we had John's story about the cyber stalk. I guess cyber stalker would
Yeah.
be it because of all the different ways that they went through it. Just can you tell me about that story? Because that's really the only one here that the others have somewhat of an end to it, where it's kind of even the Kelly one where it's like, well, yeah, we found out that this girl died, but we don't know the victim or the culprits or anything like that. That's the only one that really feels like open-ended, and it's kind of fitting that it ends the series as the sixth episode. It just leaves you on
Cool.
this kind of creepy feeling.
I like that. Thank you. I'm glad you got that. It was
Yeah.
intended. Yeah, I mean, the evil still is out there. I mean, and it resonates, and that's what's kind of on a story like that. I mean, we all use cell phones. And Beth is like she's sharing her story. I mean, she really went through it. She really went through an intense experience and continues to because there's this mystery. And I think that's the kind of thing where you walk away from, yeah, there's no ending, but it resonates when you walk away from it. And I think that's why you kind of save that for last with John's
it
episode.
it just fits the whole series because it doesn't sit there and it doesn't say like, oh well, it was probably like the ex-husband or maybe somebody else. It just is, she doesn't know, we don't know, it could be anybody. And that seems like the kernel of this series of Suburban Screams is like John's narration. It could be your neighbor, it could be the person down the street walking the dog. And that's so awesome about this series. I had a lot of fun watching it, and my girlfriend did too. She was enthralled. I was watching them for the review, and she was kind of whatever. And then she just like, I remember looking over and she's just like peeled to the screen, just like enthralled with it.
Good.
And
I love it.
so the series premieres on Peacock. You can watch all six episodes. You can watch them over and over again. Go ahead and watch it on October 13th, Friday the 13th. What a fitting day to premiere a new John Carpenter series, a new series about frightening events in your hometown, possibly. And thank you to Jordan Roberts for this interview. And make sure to go watch it, everybody. And thank you, Jordan, for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.